Welcome back to New to You. This week we discuss the book called I Shall Destroy All Civilized Planets, and we're also going to talk about a book called Ghosts/Aliens by Trey Hamburger.
Now you're back to life. Tell me, did you miss the earth while you were gone? Or just colored?
Welcome to the second episode of the second season of the New to You show. Last week we talked about So Bad It's Good, and
we talked and we talked and we talked.
We talked at length about that theory and that idea, and then we presented Jules's pick for that, which was Starship Troopers from 1997. But before we jump into our next two picks, which are both books, one that's a comic book and one that's a literature, a written word book.
Just a book.
Yeah. From picks from myself and Keith, respectively, we're going to turn to Jules and ask him what was new to him this week.
Geez, this feels fresh and new. I just started playing Hearthstone recently. And
Hearthstone, what's that?
It's a virtual trading card game by Blizzard, the same people who make World of Warcraft. And
StarCraft, I think.
And StarCraft and a lot of other video games that are very popular. And so it's a trading card game similar to Magic the Gathering and other games in that, Pokemon, etc. Except it's all virtual, so it's basically a video game version of a collectible card game. And I really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. I've played Magic the Gathering for a long time, and I just am not able to play as much as I'd like. And Hearthstone was very easy to get into, free to play, and it's available across platform. And you can just jump in, play a couple of quick games, and be out. So it kind of scratches that itch for me. And also the fact that it's soon coming to the iPad is very appealing because for some reason, because I work at a computer all day, playing a video game on a computer just never quite feels, or doing anything on a computer doesn't feel like as much like I'm having fun. And when I play games or read on my iPad, I enjoy it a lot more. So I'm looking forward to that. And so it's fun, and I would recommend it.
All right.
Hearthstone.
Yeah, Mary's been playing it. I played it a little bit, but I think, and some coworkers playing Office. It's good. Again, can
you duel people with it? Can you, if you duel? Yeah,
you can friend people. It's like all done through battle.net, like kind of connects everything. That's the Blizzard's.
And they've got like random, almost like drafting things where you draft your deck and play against people. And they have packs that you can either pay gold that you earn by playing, or you can actually throw money at packs too if you want to.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. And the art, they just have a lot of art from the years of doing Warcraft stuff, and they had their own card game, and they're using art from that. Like there was a physical card game, and the sound effects and the treatment. They just know how to put together a presentable package. And
it's done.
It's
really
very
well.
elegant. It's much nicer than like Magic the Gathering. This game has been out for 20 years, and they've had for at least 10 of those years, maybe 9 or 8 of those years, video game of the game, and it just looks like it's from the 90s.
And it's PC only.
It's really just like, it's really hard to even like open and go. So yeah. So Keith, what about you? What was new to you this week?
All sorts of things are new to me, but last night I will say I watched a movie called Monsters. I don't know if anyone's seen
it's
this.
on my Netflix list.
Yeah.
That Gareth Edwards Monsters.
Yep, that's it. It's a movie I hadn't heard of. A friend of mine said, "Hey man, you got to check this out." And just like this podcast, I was like, "Well, all right." And it's great. What a great movie. So this is the guy that's going to make the new Godzilla movie, I guess.
Which looks awesome.
Which is how it came up in conversation. My friend was like, I was like, "Man, Godzilla's going to be dumb. Don't watch it." He's like, "Well, did you see the director?" I was like, "Eh." But anyway, so I watched the movie. It's cool. It's neat. And I read a little bit on IMDb while I was watching it that some of the behind the scenes stuff that they were just kind of like shooting it pretty guerrilla as they went along, and it was a crew of 5 people, so they could all fit in a van, and that's how they made the whole movie. And I guess it wasn't even very scripted. There were a lot of just kind of outlining, hey, actors get from here to here in this scene. So a
little bit Blair Witch style.
Yeah,
production.
but I mean, way better. I mean, looks so good. The fact that this is like one, and so the idea is that this, according to Wikipedia or IMDb, I forget which one I read, but the director after shooting this film, went back and just did all the special effects himself on his home computer.
Wow.
He said he's just like, we live in a great time where you can just make these effects. So that's the story. And it's a considering the means, this is an amazing movie.
Yeah.
I mean, compared to other amazing movies, it's just okay. But I mean, considering what they started with and what they came out with, it's just amazing. So it's really great.
What did you watch it on, or how did you watch it?
I watched it on Netflix.
Oh, nice.
Just at the house.
Cool. I guess my
What about
thing,
you, John?
So I read the first 2 books in this series, Miss Peregrine's Peculiar Children. It's by Ransom Riggs. It's basically a series about the premise is that there are people and children with extraordinary abilities, these peculiars, and there was a sort of a group of them that felt that the peculiars were better than everybody, so they did this experiment, and so some of them have turned into these monsters who were trying to kill the other peculiars.
Some of the peculiars were experimented on? Okay.
And did some. So basically, they kind of see humans as less than them, and it's this weird, fantasy type world. And it's all from kid perspective, and there's some time travel involved. I don't know. It's fun. It's sort of like X-Men-y, and
What is it?
The themes remind me of Akira a lot.
a little bit, yeah. I mean, it's definitely more like you're born with these innate abilities, and then there are sanctuaries that have been built to hide you from the people who are hunting us throughout time, is sort of thing. And what happens is you live in a state of perpetual childhood where there's certain peculiars who can create these sort of like pockets of time that save a pocket, and you just live the same day. You maintain consciousness of it, so you're like not like just reverting, but all the non-peculiars are reverting, like all the people. And so you just kind of live this perpetual day outside of time. But then there are people who are like, so if they leave this pocket for too long and don't enter a new pocket,
someone could catch them potentially.
or they could age out. Like if they enter the present or whatever, a present, then they could like just turn to dust or something. So it's this weird, it's young adult, I think, is the focus, and it reads a little bit, I don't know. It's one of those things where maybe the world is fully crafted and they have a full idea, but it seems one of those things where they reveal just enough information to get you through the next obstacle. So it just seems like, oh, well, and now they can do this.
Yeah.
And it's
suddenly they're able to do this thing.
Oh, and he developed the ability just in time.
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, all right, there's sometimes setbacks and troubles, but for the most part, the coincidences are a little too helpful. So, but it's a fun book. Yeah, and I will read the third one when it comes out. So,
How long have these books been around?
well, I think the second one just came out like a couple months ago. It's one of those things where I would just like, I don't think I bought a physical book in a long time, but I will go into Barnes and Noble and walk around and just kind of look around.
But
and,
not for the books, am I right?
Yeah. I want to try and spot undercover security guys.
Yeah.
Be like, oh man, that's not a kid reading in the stacks. That's an undercover security guy. But yeah. So anyhow, that I just kind of saw the cover. It's this weird. The second book has just like a black and white photo, and that's the thing too. In this book, he takes actual black and white photos that are either doctored or real, that are just like old photos, and sort of peppers them throughout the book and has like woven them into the story.
Oh, that's neat.
So they're almost like illustrated by old photos that are either slightly doctored or.
So what time period this is supposed to be going on?
Primarily, it's like World War II.
Wow. Okay.
Is sort of where it sort of starts present day, and this kid kind of ends up in World War II. So, and there's sort of like Nazis and stuff going on. Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, let's talk about our stuff.
Yeah. So let's move into it.
The most remarkable woman ever known has such strange powers and insight that she foresees all that is to happen in connection with jungle life. So there she is with her alter ego. You know, she's going to get pissed by the end of the story, right? Okay, so there she is. She sees in a far-off laboratory a famous scientist working on a secret serum of great power. The serum is at last perfected. Now I'll be able to take apes and give them brains superior
My
to
pick
any
this
man.
week is
Your pick is so bad it's good.
Yeah, it is so bad it's good. It is the first of two collections from Fletcher Hanks Sr. He was a little known to super obscure comic artist. Basically, he considered himself a cartoonist. He was calling himself that as soon as the 1930s, but his published work primarily is 1931 to 1940 or 1939 to 1941. So you're talking like 3 years time where his work's coming out. So this graphic novel, I Shall Destroy All Civilized Planets, collects the first half of his comic work, and there's a second book that collects the remaining half. I have that here. I'll read that. It's covered. That is You Shall Die by Your Own Evil Creation. So those are
those are both quotes from different comics of his.
right. So
The titles are derived from them.
so Fletcher Hanks Sr. or Fletcher Hanks was this guy was born in 1887 and died found frozen to death on a park bench in New York in 1976. So 90 or 89 years old. He abandoned his family in 1930, was like an alcoholic, up to that point abusive. So this is all this evidence and anecdotal stuff is information found by the guy who collected this art, Paul, I'm going to
Karasik.
Karasik. I'm going to,
Who's also
mispronounce
a
his
comic.
name. He's a comic, like a cartoon, like a comic artist and illustrator. He found this through Art Spiegelman and some other artists and gathered up as much of this work and found Fletcher Hanks Jr., the son of this guy, who was like a decorated pilot during World War II. And the guy was like, my dad was an abusive drunk and was a good for nothing, and I hated him. And, it was my brothers only told me he was dead so I wouldn't go out and kill him myself, kind of thing. Like, it was that sort of like, whatever bit where this guy goes in like lovingly, like, I love your father's work. I'm trying to find you and tell me all about his weird, strange art. And the guy just kind of gets schooled on this is,
He was a handsome drunk.
yeah, who would just, abuse his wife and abuse his child and eventually leaves his family. That's about it. But so to make his money, Fletcher Hanks would paint murals for rich people's homes. This was in the 1930s. And then I guess to make some more money in 39, he started doing comics for sort of third run comic imprints. And this is a year after Superman came out. And it's the same year that Batman came out, first comics in 1939. You have these comics that he had sort of two big stars. He had a male hero called the Super Wizard Stardust, who effectively was like a techno Superman, where he was like a guy who would just go and he would fight criminals off of Earth. And then they just kind of get a radio thing saying, Stardust is coming to Earth now to fight our criminals here. And he's got a suit that makes him invulnerable. He's got gadgets galore. He wears a metal skin that makes him invulnerable to stuff. It was all this just like super tech.
Well, it's tech, but it's also magic,
Right.
Because he's a wizard.
Super Stardust, the super
He
wizard.
uses wizardry and science at the same time.
He's like
take on.
Superman, but even more awesome. No weaknesses. Snap.
And he flies with his like arms down at his side and just like head almost down, like not looking.
Well, the
where he's
interesting
going.
thing is that
like a rocket.
Well,
Yeah,
the thing
or bullet.
that is most stark when you first start seeing this is just the artwork. It's definitely proto comic book. You look at it and you're like, oh, they were still defining this when these guys were doing their thing. So when you see a Stardust comic, you just see like a lot of the tricks of just kind of reusing drawings and stuff. But the drawings he reuses they're just weird. And I mean, weird is the key to this. Everything, every panel is just, you're like, it's weirdly worded, it's weirdly written, and it's weirdly drawn all
and then
at the
weirdly
same time.
colored on top of that.
Yeah. But it's all also very like bold and
stark.
Yeah, bold and stark. So it's very iconic. Like everything pops off the page.
But then there's the action. Sometimes there's just like explosions and craziness. And a lot of times the action is extremely subdued, where you just have people floating in panel or just like a lineup of people in blindfolds all in silhouette. Like nothing happening, but this bold text telling you what's happening, even though nothing. So it's like, it is very much radio with not much illustration to the radio.
Yeah, we were looking at a bunch of other comics from the same era, and in the beginning they all had like just sounded like the old radio plays, like and they just, you can read them out loud, and you can just read all the panel
Here,
text.
let's just read a page.
Yeah, and it just describes all the action, and the panels are just like Cisse and very like redundant.
I'm just going to pick one page out at random. The Super Wizard Stardust by Fletcher Hanks. Stardust, whose vast knowledge of interplanetary science has made him the most remarkable man that ever lived, devotes his abilities to crime busting. From his crime detecting laboratory on his private star, he lives on a star, he discovers a large organization of gangsters on the Earth, plotting to capture New York's immense supply of wealth. That's the ruthless skull-face Kurd mob. They stop at nothing. I mean, it's just
I don't know.
so much exposition. You know, it was before people trusted that you could get information from the little comics. You know, they were just like, just tell them. You know, we don't need to show them.
There's a certain point though with the Fletcher Hanks work that you kind of need the bold. Like, there's moments where you're looking at the art and it's like, okay, so they just show this guy's face and it's the same picture from before, and they're ascribing all this information to it.
Right, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so like it really is. The illustrations aren't taking you too much further in this one.
But the thing that got us into this was John was mentioning how he flies. I think he's supposed to look like a comet.
Yeah,
He arrives like a comet. So and he uses the same pose all the time. It's the cover of the book as well. And it's just so funny because you don't see his face. You just see the back of him. It's just an odd way to travel.
So the super wizard, we'll talk about him a little bit more. His whole modus operandi is fly in, be invulnerable, and then either turn them into the cops after torturing them or just torture them for all eternity. So it's like, here's all these gangsters. Before I get the G-men over here, I'm going to teleport them in, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm going to float them in the air. First, I'm going to throw them out the window and make them think they're going to die. Then I'm going to float them in the
guys.
air. Yep.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to make them see all the skeletons of all the people that they've killed while they wait for the G-men to show up. And then just as the G-men get there, I'll make those skeletons disappear. It's important that those are gone.
So the G-men don't know.
Right. Or it's like, I'm going to turn all the crooks into rats, turn
Oh,
myself
that's
into
right.
a jaguar, chase them off the dock. And when they hit the water, they'll like barely be able to spin, and like they'll start to turn back. So there'll be a rat head guy, and I'll just torture him a little bit more. Or it's like, I'm going to freeze this guy forever, but he'll still be able to contemplate like what he did wrong while he's in this frozen state forever.
And the other common trope in both Stardust and Fantomah is that they somehow like know what's happening. They see the crime using their gadgets or from afar, and they always just swoop in at the last possible minute and save the day. And then, like you said, like make them feel bad and punish them for their crime. But it's like, it always seems like he could just stop it before they even start. Like he's aware, like, and that's the other thing. He always has some doodad or some gadget that he's basically godlike. He's all seeing, all powerful.
To the point where they'll list off 40 things that he has going on. And then the villains will say, well, we're going to use our Smasho-Atom Smasher Ray. And they'll go, that's not going to work because, and they'll explain why it's not going to work before they even try to use it. And then when they do finally like have some device they use against him, it's like he throws another thing, like he used his reverse mirror ray to reverse the smasher and make it smash itself. And so it's these like, you know, oh no, he can't be hurt.
Well, he's
at
just
all.
making it up as it goes along.
Yeah, it does
Every
feel
little thing.
very stream of consciousness, and it also feels like when two kids are like play fighting, they're like, oh yeah, well he's got a death beam ray.
Well, that death beam ray won't work on him because he reverses it with his super skin.
Oh yeah, well now he's invisible and everything passes through him.
Oh yeah, well then he just turns him into a rat so he can't be invisible anymore.
Yeah, but now he's a rat bomb and he's gonna explode on you.
Well, he's just gonna fly back to a star and recharge.
Well, fine.
And that's the comic. Like that's the whole comic with, you know, but again, that's the weird thing where you've got gangsters fighting invulnerable superheroes. Like that's the villain.
Well, that's what the old Superman
right.
ones
and the
were
Batmans
too.
were
Yeah.
that too.
Yeah.
So the other character, he had like, you know, like some other random guys, like a spaceman guy or whatever, or Big Red McLean, the lumberjack, who would like clean up the lumberjack areas. But his other character, and this one is actually like, this predates Wonder Woman by a good good number of years, but pretty early female superheroine is Mystery Woman of the Jungle, Fantomah.
Do you think it predates the Tarzan? There was a Tarzan knockoff that was a lady.
Woman? Probably not.
Okay.
She might have come first, but in terms of like superheroes with superpowers, she's one of the early ones. I mean, sooner than Wonder Woman, which is pretty big.
And it's funny because Fantomah's this beautiful blonde lady. She lives in the jungle for some reason, and she protects it. But when she senses crime, she's a mystery. She is. When she senses some crime happening, it's rage powers her.
Right.
And her face, and the transformation is really funny visually in the comic because it's like her face disappears and it's just
like
a
her
blank
face
skin.
becomes-
And then suddenly her skull face comes out and she's just this weird black skull creature that is
sometimes she's skin
powered
toned,
with
sometimes
rage.
she's gray.
Yeah.
And then she has like sight. She has all kinds of powers. But she'll just like
innumerable powers.
She'll just waste people with her abilities. We have a cat meowing. But yeah, I think. Well, Keith, you contended that you don't think Fletcher Hanks is real.
Well, here's what I think. I think Fletcher Hanks might be real, but it would not surprise me at all to find out that this was all a hoax and that these were just made by some hipster that stumbled across all these old Superman comics and was like, these are ridiculous. These, if I just changed it to this Stardust guy, they would seem even more. I would not be surprised at all if that were the case. And I kind of feel like I would almost respect it a little bit more if that's the case. I don't know if I would. I don't know.
If it is a hoax, it's a very elaborate and amazing hoax. Like,
right.
I would think it was awesome if it was a hoax because I mean there's not really anything that sets off like bells. It just feels very authentic and it's almost like I think it would be
they're too far out. They're too out there.
But at the same time, it would be so hard to make a hoax and make this. I think that would be so
look
impressive
at the
to
picture
me.
of it. So on the first page, or I guess it's the third page of the whole book, there's a picture and it says this book is dedicated to Fletcher Hanks Jr. And it's just some old dude, and I'm like, it's too good to be real. I know. Well, I mean, it's supposed to be his son, but it's just like,
well, you take anybody from that generation.
Central casting is where this guy comes from.
He looks a lot like my grandpa.
Yeah, yep. He looks like everyone's grandpa. I don't know. I mean, I'm probably wrong because this is here. But
I love the idea that it's all a hoax.
Yeah,
but I also don't think it is.
Yeah, I think it's. I think basically what this is somebody sees Superman, and this is like the cigar chomping guy who's going to make money. Like he makes most of his money selling ads to get like boys to buy into like pyramid schemes at the back of his comics. But he's like, that Superman's doing real good. We're going to switch from war comics or whatever we're doing to we need a super wizard. Like make me a superhero, and he just hires the schlub, this guy, to draw him these comics. The guy makes a run at it, makes no money because it's not very good at the end of the day. I mean, it's okay, and it's printed poorly. The color selection and the editing is not great, and it gets made. And then
I argue the colors are great.
Well, the colors, I don't think they're intentionally chosen.
They're basically like everything's flat primary colors. It's like
Well,
bright
they were
yellow,
only allowed
bright red.
certain amount of dyes in a comic.
But it's like bright red, bright yellow, bright green. Just
it's the old it's the Dick Tracy colors. I mean that's
But again, he uses them I think to great effect. And I mean, sort of randomly, like the same background will, like the same kind of scene will change background colors from panel to panel. Like there's no continuity to it, but it's very effective in a graphic sense. Like that's what I think is strong. Like the artwork, like especially like people's faces and bodies can be really
stiff.
It can be very stiff, very awkward. Like a lot of the characters are very ugly. But there's this like boldness to it, and this like compositionally, I think the panels and the pages are really strong. I mean, it just really like pops and grabs your attention away. I don't know. There is something really enjoyable about them, and also like it just feels like compared to others. I mean, part of it is that it's these books because they're like lovingly made. I think like they're printed at a larger size. size than most comics and old reprints, and everything feels large and big and bold, and I really love that about them.
Yeah, and you can really see like the handmade text. It's just really nice.
So I guess I want to go into like we've talked a little bit about it, but what I think is the bad on this is the it's sort of like
art.
Yeah, the art.
The writing, the composition.
The sort of hacked like the concepts in and of themselves are just like half baked.
Yeah.
The characters are like, it's just sort of like, okay, well, it's stream of consciousness possibly, but it's also just probably straight laziness. Like, I just got to get through this. Like, it could just be piecework for all we know. Like, this guy's just churning these out. I got to get X pages done, and here we go. Here's your colors. Like, I don't know how much like love and all this went in, or this guy's laboring over this stuff and like really being attentive. And
he's so drunk that it just comes out all wrong.
That's possible too. So it's just so like, ugh, like the final product is really like weird.
Well, it's another one of those things where you read it and you're like, somebody made this. Somebody not only conceived it, but went ahead and put the work in to finish it and put this out there.
To me,
I wonder if there's a kid who like, Dad, I want this new Superman book, and his dad comes home with like Stardust the Super Wizard, and like
kind of like, no, it would be a grandma.
Yeah.
Oh, you like Superman? I got you the Stardust. He's the new Superman.
Grandma, open your present for your birthday. And it's like, it's Stardust, the Super Wizard Stardust. He's super guy. He's flying.
Look at him, honey. He's doing his thing. He's flying just like Superman. He's fighting the gangsters.
But it's I think it's like bad in the same. I really would say it's akin to what you'd see nowadays as like Super Amigo, like the bad like Mexican or Chinese knockoff like lead paint redistribution that you'd find in Chinatown and you see hilarious pictures of like Voltron made out of Thomas the Tank Engine kind of stuff, like just poorly conceived. Like, it's a Power Ranger and the Human Torch and Batman and a Ninja Turtle and Superman with like a backwards head, and it says like amazing friends. Like that's sort of that, like, this is a knockoff, someone just trying to make some money off of a hot idea. A little bit.
I think it's almost like so weird it's good. I mean, it's also kind of definitely bad, but also just so like the strangeness of it is what sells me. But it is also like everything's very fast paced, and it's got that element that it's not boring.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, even though it's all kind of crude, you can also just burn through the whole book very fast. Right. Like, it's not heavy it's not hard to get through. But Fantomah, I think, is the more interesting and weirder character.
Right.
Even like her transformation from like a regular woman to like Fantomah, it's like her face basically like becomes blank and then becomes a skull. And she's just really creepy. And she's just like, one of her powers, she's kind of like a ghost. Like, no one sees her, and she just kind of like lurks around invisibly, like, again, studying the bad guys doing their bad deeds. And then right at the end, just like stops them and punishes them.
Right.
And it's just really like weird and creepy.
And I just have like weird, she'll like fly back to her lair and psychically let the jungle know, which the panel art is like two native like black guys smiling with big lips, like, yeah, she saved everybody, psychically being told that the jungle is now safe. Thanks to Fantomah.
Get back to it.
It's so strange, like so many weird things going on.
Well, if you think about it, I mean, the Phantom, I'm wondering if the Phantom...
I wondered the same thing.
But it must
Which came out first?
The Phantom came out first.
Yeah. So this is definitely the knockoff of the Phantom, because it's protecting the jungle. Yeah. It's mysterious magical powers that no one ever explains.
Right. Well, except the Phantom didn't have any superpowers.
I know.
He was just a guy with a horse and a gun.
No
way.
He
just had a lot of money.
He had superpowers.
He had
had the rings that
I don't think they gave him any rings. I think he just had...
He had the ring.
Yeah, the ring was more of like an icon, like that I'm the Phantom. It was like a signet.
On the Wikipedia page, it says that he has no superpowers. He relies on his strength, intelligence, and fearsome reputation of being an immortal ghost to defeat his foes.
Because there's always a new Phantom.
He's like the Dread Pirate Roberts.
Exactly.
He's pretty cool. He lives in an ancient skull cave, has a trained wolf, devil, and horse named Hero.
What's devil?
I don't know.
The wolf is named devil. I think.
Oh,
Okay,
right,
yeah,
right. No, he has a devil.
He's got a trained wolf,
Yeah, he has
devil, and a horse.
Oh, yeah, it says here it was a daily newspaper strip on February 17th, 1936.
So
Yeah.
a few years prior.
And then in 39, it became a color Sunday strip. So yeah, probably she was a straight up knockoff.
right, like give me a superhero in the jungle.
Yeah.
To go with that. Yeah. So I think this one is a little, it's a little weird. I think too that pulling it out and doing your pop art version of it, which is what these sort of graphic novels are, like you said, you make it a little blown up, at least blown up compared to how we're used to seeing comics, but also taken out of the context of its time, presented in a nice graphic way, and lovingly. I'm sure the colors were cleaned up off of the cheap ass newsprint that they were originally printed on, and like just given more brilliance and kind of brought back to what they may have been somewhat close to originally. Just really like an eye catcher, and that's about it.
Yeah, and so the guy who put this together, Paul Karazic, also at the end of the compilation has a little like autobiographical comic that is the story of him
Discovering.
discovering it and like kind of loving it, and then finding and researching it, finding his son, and then getting the true story of the guy. And it's kind of fun to also look at it that way, and that like now that we know everything about the guy who made it, it does kind of seem like he probably didn't really, I mean, to me, my impression is he probably didn't really give a crap about this stuff. It was probably just to pay the bills and refill his liquor cabinet, and and he probably like were he alive today, just be like, oh, this was crap,
Right.
And
Or
it
it was a
would be
scheme.
amusing to him that like some comic artists are like, this is a lost treasure,
Right.
And it's kind of is interesting to to read that biocomic and kind of watch him like he kind of had an idea in his head of like oh, I'm gonna find this long lost guy and find out all about him, and then like just kind of getting that like little dream crushed by like, oh, this guy was kind of like a huge jerk and not a good human being, and to kind of put the pieces together, I really don't think he really cared very much about his comic work.
Right.
So it's kind of fun to me that whole aspect of it as well, that there's people who are like see this as this lost gem, which it is and it isn't. It's
No, it is. It's funny in this time, in this day and age of Adventure Time and like regular show, these types of shows, and the world of Gumball, all these kind of very fast paced. Anything could happen. Well, I guess Adventure Time isn't always fast paced, but it's this new kind of wave of storytelling. It's kind of a lot like these Stardust things, where it's just kind of like, oh, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then oh yeah, so just when you thought this was going to happen, this happened.
Yeah, and
it kind of feels like that,
and it's fun because it does feel like it's more childlike. It's more like a kid,
like a kid would write these stories.
Like they're not stopping to deal with the nitty gritties and like, oh well, that's not very believable or whatever.
Yeah,
they're just like going for it and like just being fun. Yeah, that's true.
But I think it's worth everyone checking out.
Yeah, I would say find it. I think it was collected in 2011. 11.
Feels like it was before that,
But
seems like it was before 2011.
well, it was the guy died in 2008. Fletcher Hanks
Jr.
Jr. He passed away in 2008. So that's collected sometime in the past 5 years for sure. And yeah, you can find both books. I Shall Destroy All Civilized Planets, and its accompanying.
It was published in 2007. The
there
collection.
you go. 2007, just before Fletcher Hanks Jr. died. And You Shall Die by Your Own Evil Creation is the second book in the complete collected comic works of Fletcher Hanks.
And I'll leave you with this quote from the back of the book from Robert Crumb. Raw, powerful stuff. I'm glad to see a book like this. Fletcher Hanks was a twisted dude. Which I think transitions us well into Trey Hamburger's opus.
Well, do we want to talk about it
Aliens.
now? Are we talking about it? Or are we taking
let's go into it. We'll go
All
into
right.
the next-
Well,
you wanna
then
take
I'm-
a wee break. All right, so we'll jump into the next
An
topic.
artificial gorilla call to attract the big apes. From out of the dense forest comes a group of the huge gorillas. The trap is in their path. Look, Mac, we should capture several. The gorillas finally reach the trap. We have trapped 4 of them, Doctor. Fine, now I'll make the experiment.
Hi, how are you? Hi, how are you? My name's Trey Hamburger. I live in Leonard, Michigan, next Meatball Factory. Anybody there? Hello?
Yeah. We're here, Trey.
Okay.
We're talking to you now. We're looking at all your information here, and I think Amy and I have both agreed that this is pretty weird stuff.
I know. I agree with you. I mean, basically, I am a victim of paranormal activity, and I'm not talking about, the guys who went looking for UFOs and found a truck full of Mexicans and ended up getting in a huge fight. I mean, I'm talking about the real thing.
I'm going to
So
bring.
you gotta
I'm
tell
going to
us
talk about a book called
well,
Ghosts/Aliens. It's a really hilarious book, and this is also along that shady line of, okay, they meant it to be bad, so is it really bad? So bad it's good, or is it just really good? This is the problem we've been having, and why we talked about it so long last week. It's kind of a gray area. I guess the problem is when we are, a lot of what we want to do on this show is suggest people go do these things and see these things and experience these things. And if we get to the point where we are recommending, pterodactyl mom, it's so subjective. It's such a tight wire that I hesitate to suggest certain things like that, like Tromeo and Juliet. I find Tromeo and Juliet wonderful, but most people would not. So this is why Jules and I kind of leaned toward things that I think are a little bit more mass consumable. And what I'm bringing to the table is what I find to be a just absolutely hilarious book called Ghosts/Aliens. I've already mentioned it. It's by somebody claiming to be named Trey Hamburger, who's claiming to be the cousin of
Robert
Hamburger. And Robert Hamburger, you might know if you've been on the internet for a long time, was the one who introduced us to the realultimatepower.net, about a website all about ninjas and how badass they are. So this supposedly is his cousin Trey, who, ninjas are cool, but this guy has been dealing with some effed up shit, y'all. And this guy, his name's Trey Hamburger. He just lives in a town in Michigan, and he's just not going to take it anymore. There's just too much crazy stuff going on, and he's got to tell us about it, and he's going to stop it too. Him and his buddy Mike. And basically, what it is, it's if you can imagine the journal of a moron trying to convince the world that this stupid thing is happening. That's this story,
right? With full awareness that he doesn't know much about him, but he knows that
something's not right,
and that he's gonna use his skills to fight them,
and he might be the chosen one,
right?
And if he is the chosen one, he's not going to turn into a dick like everyone else would have. He's going to stay cool, because that's what bros do.
Yeah, that's this book is only for like serious
people,
serious dudes
for some serious stuff. It came out in 2008, and
has a companion website.
Yeah, an amazing companion website. And I mean, I don't guess there's really an awful lot I can say about it, except, we will obviously discuss it a little bit, but Trey is convinced by it. Well, I'll just describe some of the things that I love about it, and it's the same thing that I love about the Fletcher Hanks thing, and it's the same thing I love about Adventure Time. It's as if it's a story written by a person who doesn't write stories, and it's a story by an amateur, but they're also kind of making it up as they go along, and then they're starting to believe it, and it's starting to build on itself, and I just think it's very artfully done. So the way the book is, no, seriously, if this was a dumb kid, I would think that's really funny, but it's a grown-up person who wrote this from the eyes of a dumb kid, and not only one dumb kid, two dumb kids, because as Trey is enlightening us with his story, his buddy Mike, who's represented by a race car graphic, chimes in from time to time.
It's a race in the book. It's a race car with a speech bubble.
Yeah. So every time, so in chapter 14, titled "Dude, What the Fuck?" Mike is going on about, the only thing I know is that something was implanted in my brain, but I don't know what. Regardless, one has to wonder whether my inability to remember the incident was due to either short-term memory loss or deliberate effort by the Hot Pocket itself to block my recall. And then that's when Mike pops in and says, "You mean Dead Derek's Hot Pocket was consciously doing this?" "I don't know, dude," says Trey. "All I know is I smelled pepperonis all over the fucking place when I crossed the space-time barrier." It's just like, it's
ridiculous.
poetry.
Right.
It's poetry. Yes,
It's ridiculous.
And you can open to you can literally. I just flipped to that page and just started reading. You can flip to any page in this book and start reading. They write.
Yeah, that's my favorite part is this bit where they write to actual scientists and try to get like responses from them, and that's where I think they take it to another level. And that's where it like works for me in a better way. It's
because they're trying to
shotguns a
learn.
lot.
They're trying to learn how to deal with these forces that they don't understand,
Right.
and that's another thing. Because kids and teenagers, I feel like I was like this. Everyone must have been like this. I mean, if this guy is tapped into it, but I feel like there's so many different like philosophies and things floating around, and you don't really know which one to grab a hold of. So maybe you believe in aliens because you watched X-Files, but maybe you also think that there's this other stuff that we just don't understand. You don't know what's out there, but you know something's out there. And this is kind of the
you
feeling
don't
that these
trust
guys
the
have.
man.
And why would you trust the man? I mean, that's another thing as a kid is it's like you just can't trust
And also-
what the media's feeding you.
And also, like, the voice is good enough that the scientists, like, aren't totally sure it's not just a kid being dumb. Like, like, the scientists will reply sometimes seriously because
Well, I don't even know.
they don't believe that they don't know they're being trolled
I
necessarily.
don't know if these responses
Are
are
even
real,
real, yeah.
people.
Oh, see,
They
I
might
assume
be.
they were. I
Yeah.
assume they were.
Yeah, no, you can't.
Nah,
Really
that's true.
assume
I
that.
can't.
I guess. All right. So my critique on this book, and I really like it, and I like the Real Ultimate Power, is that like the same sort of like charm of you can just flip to anything and get into it. Like I like it's an effort. If you can't easily sit down and read this whole thing cover to cover, I don't think. I think that's a difficult thing to do.
I've read it all the way through, but I not in one sitting.
It's similar to me like Cromartie High, for instance. Like that's one where I can read the manga because I can put it down and walk away.
Yeah.
If somebody puts the actual anime on, it is incessant and
See,
it's shotgunning so fast. Where 3 episodes in, my brain is melting out of my eyeballs, and it's just like there's so much subtlety and so much going on that you kind of need to step back from it. But at the same time, I guess my concern is I step back in and it's like I started over again, even if I have started at chapter 14 or something,
Yeah, I think it's I mean, I was also like I was a huge fan of the Real Ultimate Power where, Robert is into ninjas, and there's just something like they just really nailed the word choices. Like it's like they come up with their own kind of catchphrases that they use over and over again, and they just find like it is kind of like a form of dopey bro poetry.
Yeah.
Poetry.
That taps into something and is hilarious. The problem I have with Ghost/Aliens is, I think I'm more into ninjas than Ghosts/Aliens. And also, I think, like he said it, I think it works really well for like a web page for a chapter, but in the same way, it got tiresome for me. There's no way I could read the whole thing. And I think it's a good like bathroom book. You can just leave it in the bathroom and then you just pick it up and read a random segment and you're like, ha ha ha. But if you try to read it cover to cover, like I'm just I don't know, it just feels repetitive and gets kind of boring. And the fact that it's written as though it's from somebody who doesn't know how to write is like very apparent.
Well, that's why too. I mean, they do a lot of different stuff though, and it's pretty fun. It's just you kind of have to like get into the tone of it and also understand what they're making fun of, which are, I mean, those shows where they like, we're going to go in this haunted house and I have my cold reader and my, electric frequency reader, and we're going to find out exactly what's going on here. I come to understand that 30 years ago, there was a family that lived here and most of them are now dead.
But it's basically written,
and it's just like,
it's
ooh,
basically
and now
written from the
guys
point of view of
doing
a
that.
kid who's grown up watching those kinds of shows.
Yeah.
Right.
And has like made up his own story.
But the thing
it's
is,
kind of how it
nowadays,
feels.
like there are guys who are part of those shows who are just like, it's our college ghost hunting club, and they're these guys like, and they're just just so earnest and sad. And I don't know. I mean, it's funny because these guys are like, not too far off.
But
It's like
the thing about this is
they're one sock full of glue away from.
Right. But the thing is, like, about this again, it's like it's not really about anything. It's really, to me, what makes it funny is more like, again, like how they talk and
that's definitely it.
The things like they think are cool or weird, and like like that he'll randomly like like someone will split kick somebody, and it makes no sense, but it's just like because that's cool,
Yeah. So instead of just saying I kicked him, he would say something like I full on like jackknife kicked him, or they would use some terminology that made it think. So here's another example I love. This is their manual that they wrote about how to become a fierce fighter. It's called Close Combat Fighting Techniques. Step 1: learn karate. Most extraterrestrials are masters of taekwondo and jujitsu, so you need to get in and get out quickly, inflicting the most damage and incapacitating them in the fewest moves possible. Trust me, you don't want to have a drawn-out fight with these beings. First off, there's no reason that a person shouldn't invest in learning martial arts if they are serious about fighting ghosts/aliens. If there aren't any grandmasters close enough to your house, then I can go over there and show you a few moves. In a few scenarios that you might need to use them in. It's just like we've been around these people. We've grown up with these kids who think that they're smart, and they will use certain words in a certain way. Like scenarios and techniques, and they're experts. Obviously, no matter what, like, trust me, dude. And it's really funny because when you read the Real Ultimate Power website, there's a whole section of fan mail and like complaint mail. And the complaint mail could be fake too, because it sounds exactly like this, because it's the same kinds of people that are like, man, trust me, you don't want to mess with the ninjas. And this is like some real person writing into this website, warning them that one day the Grand Master of Ninjas is going to come and like make them sorry for making fun of ninjas. You know what I mean? It's,
You know who I think is in the same spirit as this stuff, but like the adult version is the guy he's like did the Foot Fist Way, what's his name? McBride.
Yeah, Sean McBride.
No, not Sean McBride.
No, we work with Sean McBride.
Danny McBride.
Danny McBride.
Yeah. So Danny McBride, I think, has the same, like I said, a more
he
adult.
portrays that character.
Yeah, it's like that character, but grown up.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Yeah.
Well, you also the stunted growth version you see in like Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah.
Or was that Eagle versus Shark? Was that so those you have like stunted versions, like these. If these guys, and they kind of are in their like 20s, still espousing.
Well,
these
no,
beliefs.
these guys are supposed to be in high school in this,
right? So if it's
they haven't had sex yet, but not because they didn't want to. They're just saving themselves for their soulmates.
Yeah, and they're busy.
Yeah. They're training too hard.
Yeah. So I guess this is the question: it's intentionally bad and funny for that because we know like what it's making fun of, and we know like the tone that they're like working with. Now, is it so bad it's good, or doing a good job of being bad, being bad good?
I think similar to Starship Troopers, it's like it's done such a good job at being bad that like you can almost be fooled. Like,
I think so. And I think you have to have an appreciation for the bad movies to appreciate these things. You know what I mean? Like you have to contextualize yourself with a million bad film noir movies to get all the references in Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. You know what I mean?
But I guess the question is like, what about Sharknado?
What's that?
Well, what about something like Sharknado?
Well,
where it's just they're just pushing it as far as they can within the bad genre, and it's not like where Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid is a reference heavy comedy.
Yeah.
Sharknado is a comedy horror movie.
I can't honestly say I never saw Sharknado, but I imagine 80% of that movie is just the name. I think that people will watch that
and
almost on a dare.
And the trailer.
I didn't see the trailer.
I mean, it's just like sharks being flung through the air and eating people as they land on them.
But it just has like that's more of like a total B movie that's just catching you with a hook. You know what I mean?
Intentional B.
Like you're like, I've got to see this ridiculous sounding thing. Right. Whereas, like, I don't think Starship Troopers or Ghost/Aliens is doing that.
I think Ghost Aliens might be pushing like we're going to catch them with like just Real Ultimate Power is that same sort of like we're gonna make something silly, ridiculous, over the top where like ninjas are popping boners and blowing up buildings.
Yeah.
To the point where it's like, I mean that's what they do. They like wail on their guitar and pop boners and blow stuff up.
No, I think
they don't blow stuff up; they chop stuff up.
Yeah, they chop. They slice it. In half.
What is it? They flip out all the time. Just flip out all the time.
But there's something about their this brand of humor that Robert and Trey Hamburger share that I think is just, I don't know who the audience is, but I feel like it's niche that people who just like straight up find it hilarious.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, you would show them this and they would just not find it funny at all.
Yeah.
And I don't really know.
Same with Real Ultimate Power.
Yeah.
Like
yes,
you go, I don't know if it's still up. I haven't seen it in a long time, but going to realultimatepower.net or whatever, it looks like an ugly website.
Oh, yeah,
you don't even, I mean, there's no reason to stay on it until you start reading it.
Yes. But I'm saying even people who read it, like I think there's people who can read that ridiculous ninja stuff, don't find this funny at all, like on any level.
Yeah.
I don't know why I do and why they don't, but I don't know if it's like if it's a cultural thing, if it's like a.
I think I mean, culturally, language wise, it's pretty subtle.
Right. Yeah. You have to be. I think you have to be a native English speaker to get it for sure.
And I think too, you maybe if you were to like if you weren't around people who acted like this or knew people who like there are people like this.
Yeah.
And if you don't hold a disdain for them, like then maybe you'd appreciate, like if you interacted with them and weren't, in any way, like, I guess what I'm saying is maybe people who were not outsiders or I don't know if that's
Maybe
it.
you had to be nerdy enough to know these super nerdy guys like this.
Right. And then almost be
and to
not
put up with them.
Yeah, either put up with them or just be like appreciate them,
Yeah.
like not like see the charm.
Yeah.
And not be like what a fucking nerd kind of thing and see that as like a point of weakness versus and then the thing is at the same time though we're laughing at that person for acting like this.
Yeah, for dressing like a ninja at school.
Yeah.
And
but, I mean, he's still your buddy, even though that, I had those pals. And I mean, I might be that pal to somebody else, you know what I mean? Who's just like, I can't believe he did the thing, whatever it is.
I can't believe he hasn't cut that rat tail yet.
But I think too, and the other thing too is that it's very, very self-aware. And again, we're filtering it through sort of like our high school experience of like, we saw kids like this, but the internet has opened people up. So everyone has accessed people like these. And this kind of humor is all over the internet. Mm-hmm. And so the younger kids who are reading and viewing this stuff, they know all this stuff and they get the humor. They've seen it umpteen times. Mm-hmm. And maybe this is the Jay Leno version of that. I don't know.
I don't think they get it. I don't think the kids today get it with their Game Boys and their Pokemons. But another thing, it just makes me, I keep coming back to mentioning Adventure Time and these things like this. There's a relationship between he and Mike. They're bros, man. They're amigos. And they say all the time, amigos, right? So, and it reminds me a lot of Adventure Time for that. These guys are bonded to one another. And I don't know, I think there's something neat about that. There's a little heart there that I like. Mm-hmm. But that's really about all I can say about it. I mean, I can't believe we've said this much about it. But
so
I would totally check out the Real Ultimate Power. What's the actual website?
.com, I think.
The Real
if you
Ultimate
just
Power.
I think Google Real Ultimate Power.
Yeah.
And you'll find it.
That's a great place to start. And I mean, I think it's awesome. It's totally sweet.
And I think too, like it's definitely worth reading the book too. The Ghost Aliens is fun.
Yeah, and like they said, even if you don't make it through, just find it at a library bookstore and just read through a little bit.
Yeah, just flip through some and fun. I mean, I don't know if it's on any of the iDevices yet or anything. I was able to
take a quick peek.
I was not able to find it on some. It's got some like pictures and it's, pretty fun.
There's a lot of little fun visuals in it.
Yeah. I mean, maybe too, it's very dense for, you know, like, was it Max Brooks or one of those guys had the like zombie survival guide, a lot of those kind of kitsch, like, you know, let's get on this zombie or the survival craze combo thing. Those aren't as dense as this book in terms of like, this probably half the material that this has going on. So just running,
they're not as serious as these dudes.
So just running a joke this long is somewhat admirable too. Like
Ghost Aliens is available on the iBookstore for $11.99.
All right then.
Oh, that's pretty pricey for this book.
Yeah.
I think mine cost $6.99.
Hey man, like he risked a lot to write that
Oh,
book.
incorrect. Mine cost $13.95. So you're getting a deal on iTunes.
Save off paper.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's so what do you guys think? Last thoughts on this topic? Last thoughts on Ghost Aliens for So Bad It's Good?
Well, I'll say So Bad It's Good was a good topic, but not so good that it was worth losing Mary for.
Yeah, it was.
You know, we're just going to have to come up with a topic next time that's going to bring her back.
Yeah, like so good it's bad.
I have a very important message. I have decided to auction off my virginity. Now, some of you may be saying, there's no way you're a virgin. It's true. I've been saving myself for my true love. But securing the funds for a fully functioning laser cannon is way more important than preserving my innocence. Here are the following rules for possible bidders. Number 1, no yeast infections. Number 2, gotta be smoking hot. Number 3, martial arts training is a plus, but not...
So I was one of your hosts, John Holtz. You can find me on the internet at Lord Joho. With me, one of my co-hosts,
Keith Vincent. You can check out some of my artwork and photographs on earthlingkeith.tumblr.net.com.
And I'm Julian Cage. You can find me on Twitter at BeautifulJules.
All right. So the New to You Show, we have a website, thenewtoushhow.com. We're on Twitter at New to You Show. You can leave comments on the webpage. You can leave us reviews on iTunes. We'll look into being on other streaming podcast apps, possibly. I hear that there are some out there. And otherwise, you should check out the site too, just to see pictures. We'll throw up some pictures of Ghost Aliens. We'll throw up some pictures of the Fletcher Hanks comic. And
some videos related to these things.
Yeah, we'll throw some links to those videos. That's about it for this New to You Show. We'll come back next week with a new topic, and
it'll be fun.
Yeah, it'll be gooder than bad.
It'll be better than not so good.
And much like this stuff, it may not be new, but hopefully it was new to you.
It's all about the music, this pitiful life. It's all about the music, this pitiful life. It's all about the music.
With him together forever. Without the limitation of time, second coming Lord is not